We are live and welcome to the weekly show of Classroom Without Walls. My name is I'm the host of this weekly show. I interview leading social media digital marketers on this show to share with you the latest practices and strategies and tactics in social media and digital marketing. I'm really excited today because joining me live is my dear friend and Carlos Gil. I think we connected a few years ago through Snapchat. I don't even know how many years, but I just love how you share stories, how you engage with people. And I'm actually so honored to get a signed copy. Where is it?
I want to say you got the first signed copy, actually.
The first,
actually, no, you have number 3 for my senior.
It's not bad, right? I don't mind being the third. So it's such an amazing book. I'm almost done reading the book. So many great points. And today we are going to discuss the end of marketing. And we are live on Facebook. Hello, everyone on Facebook. We're also live on LinkedIn. Hello, LinkedIn. We're also live on Periscope and on YouTube. So let us know where you are joining us from. Today's interview is going to be, so bring your notebook. Carlos, I'm sure is going to drop so much value as always. Before we get started with our interview today, I just want to do a very quick self-promotion of my, many of you who have been following me or my journey, you know that I just resigned from my job of being a college professor after 10 plus years. Now I'm building my own school. So the first program I'm launching is a 10-day immersion in Singapore. And today I have a big announcement. And you guys are the first group of people to hear this announcement because I love you guys and you have been so supportive of me and my content. So this immersion has online learning and you will be taking a class. And also will be earning 2 certifications, Adobe certification and entrepreneurship and small business certification. The highlight of the program is actually a 10-day immersion in Singapore. And I am giving away a scholarship. So I will sponsor a kid between 17 to 27 years old to come to this program for free. I will also sponsor up to 500 airfare. So because I really believe in the value of this program is going to transform any children, any kid, like the age I just shared, going to transform their life. And so if you know someone who might be interested in the program, come to Singapore, interact with speakers from all over the globe and visiting Fortune 500 companies. So please let them know. I'm going to enter the link. And so they can apply, check out the link, Classroom Without Walls, Dr. AI, to apply and share on social media and to do an interview. So I will select one lucky winner. And for the lucky winner, I will sponsor this person's trip. Okay, so super excited. And so that's kind of my personal announcement. Thank you so much, Carlos, for allowing me to mention this. And today, I feel like a giving day for me. I'm also going to give away a copy of Carlos' book. It's such a great book. So what you guys need to do is just to comment and to share. I will randomly select a person to get a free copy, however you want it, digital. Is this on Audible also, Carlos?
The audio version actually just rolled out this morning on the Audible platform.
Awesome. So either a hard copy, a digital copy, or on Audible, however you want it. So please comment and share. And so let's get started. I'm going to do a yes. So Carlos is an award-winning social media strategist, a digital storyteller. He's also an international keynote speaker, has 10 plus years experience leading social media strategy for global brands, one of which is my favorite social media platform, which is LinkedIn. And Carlos' work has been featured on CNN Money, Harvard Business Review, and Social Media Examiner, Entrepreneur, and so many other different places. So really honored to have you on the show and to talk about the end of marketing. So welcome to the show, Carlos.
It's great to be here with you. I think, you are one of the more loyal, people I've engaged with on social media throughout the years. You've been very supportive of not just my work, but every time that we see each other in person at Social Media Marketing World. We recently saw each other at an Adobe event. You always have a smile. It's contagious. It's
Oh,
nice to be able to connect with people online, but then carry those conversations over to in person. And, it just feels like a warm, uh, you know, connection versus a transaction. You know what I mean?
oh, that means so much to me. Means so much to me. And my dear friend Peter is joining us live. He's based in UK. He's the person monitoring people's comments and questions. So if you guys have any question, please feel free to tag Peter. He's on all the social media platforms, and we are going to take as many questions as possible. So first of all, Carlos, why this book at this time? This
It's a
type
good
of
question. That's a really good question. So this is the first book that I write. I've worked in social media now for 10 plus years, like you mentioned, both as an entrepreneur, as a corporate marketing executive, and then now as an entrepreneur again, working not just as a speaker, but working with brand marketers at companies. And I came to the conclusion a long time ago that marketing is fragmented. Today's consumer has so many different points of where they can go to interact with just people. And brands are often left in the shadows. And the reality is that brands are struggling in order to make connections and stay relevant. And the reason for that is because most brands on social media today, whether you're a small, medium business or you're a large corporation, typically you're using social media to sell. And very much what the framework of end-to-end marketing teaches at its core is that going forward, if your brand is going to stay relevant online, then you need to find ways to replace your logo with a real human face and a human voice. I'm not talking about influencer marketing. In fact, in the book, I very openly write about why I feel that influencer marketing doesn't work. It's not a long-term viable solution for a company. But what I do teach marketers is as we enter the next 10 years of what I refer to as this AI revolution, being artificial intelligence, if companies want to stay afloat, they're going to have to find ways to tap into really the ethos of their company. So that means telling stories around what makes your company, right? Like, stop talking about the products, stop talking about the services, but actually talk about what makes your company run from within. And that means spotlighting your employees. That means giving your employees access to communicate on behalf of the brand. That means using social listening to identify who's truly a customer, who's an advocate, and building relationships with them. And I think that as marketers, we've gotten away from that. I think that we are using these mediums to broadcast and distribute every day, but we've gotten away from at the core what social media is all about. And it's about socializing and building relationships. So what I hope the end of marketing will accomplish is that anyone that reads it is going to, first of all, um, walk away with it with a sense of tactical knowledge. Every single chapter, as you can attest to, actually gives you actionable steps. It gives you what I refer to as keys that you can immediately apply in your business. But really what the book is intended to do is future-proof your company. And I mentioned before this AI revolution. So as I was writing the book, I was starting to do research in terms of what's next for marketing. And artificial intelligence is getting ready to disrupt everything that we know, everything that we do in marketing. Now, you mentioned the name before and like why I decided to write this book, right? I have seen all the greats before me write books, the Gary V's, the Jay Bears of the world, Brian Solis. Brian actually wrote the forward to them to marketing. And I felt that I've been in the space for a while. I speak as it is. I built a brand for myself. So why not? Why not be a new, emerging, fresh voice in the industry to bring a different perspective? I think that social media marketing has become so watered down, to be honest with you. And we're constantly using all these buzzwords and jargon. And again, I'm in the trenches. I'm working with companies. I've worked within these organizations. I'm on stages. I'm hearing people's, problems and whatnot after I get off stage. And I said, marketing, one day I stood back and I said, marketing isn't even really marketing anymore. It's communication. It's brand building. It's brand awareness. It's PR. It's sales. So there really isn't marketing as we know it anymore. Like I said in the book, marketing is dead. And now what marketing really is a lot of things. And, at the core, we as people relate to people. And I think that if you get away from thinking of your company as just another place where people go buy things, but instead you start using the people within your organization to build relationships as advocates, as brand ambassadors for your organization, then what you'll do is you'll create some elasticity long-term for your brand to survive. And let's face it, social media is really noisy. And I was trying to go for a name in a book, which is really challenging, that would get people's attention. And I use this term throughout the book called digital savage. Mm-hmm. And what a digital savage really means is that you are someone that is cutting through the noise. So what better way to cut through the noise when you have hundreds of thousands of marketing and business books that were written before me than to actually create something that's bold. And I think that's the brand I've also built for myself. Mm-hmm. If you follow my brand long enough, you'll know that I tend to be pretty bold in some of the things I say, some of the things I post. I'm not afraid to give you my opinion. So, why not own it with having a book that'll ruffle some feathers from a naming standpoint?
I think that's why I love this book so much, because you definitely shared some of your personal predictions, and especially when it comes to AI. I'm going to share some of your predictions later. But I think that's why people love this book, because we don't want to hear messages we already hear from other people. We want to hear from you. That's why we're buying this book from you, because we want to hear how Carlos think about marketing, the future of marketing. So right. It's like, based on what you shared, marketing, the traditional definition of marketing is no longer the case, but there's this new age of marketing. So I want to ask you, how is marketing today different from marketing, like, for example, 5 years ago? So maybe you can highlight like three specific.
So here's the thing, like, marketing at the core has always been transactional, right? About getting people's attention in order to get them to convert and buy. And we have so many different paths to purchase now. And I use this example. I did a keynote yesterday here in LA, and then today I went back and did a talk at the same conference. And it was a social analytics conference. So it's with people that are just looking at data all day. And what I broke down for them is look, within the data that you're looking at, there are real buyers. There are people every single day that are talking about your company, your competition, or your industry, and they don't know that you exist. They're not looking at your content, but they're still talking about you. And you need to make it your objective to go find who they are. So one of the analogies I use throughout the book is start thinking about social networks themselves as search engines. So instead of thinking that social media is just another place to broadcast, which historically that's what marketing has been about. You broadcast content out, people consume the content, they come to your website, they buy, and then hopefully they become advocates, But that path to purchase is not linear. The path to creating advocacy is not linear either. You need to ensure that you are taking the appropriate steps to insert yourself in conversations, that you are truly building advocacy. So again, I look at traditional marketing as very much being like one-dimensional. It's a one-way street. The beauty about social media is that you don't even have to post content in order to get someone to care about your brand. You can use it just to listen and just to interact and engage. And I think we really moved away from that. And hopefully what the end of marketing, and when someone picks up the book and reads it, ultimately what I want them to do is go back to the basics. And I realized, and this is the challenging in writing a social media marketing book in almost the year 2020, so social media is not new. So there's none of this methodology that I'm necessarily teaching you that's groundbreaking, but it's going much more deeper in terms of tactical execution. So chapter 3, how to be savage AF like Randy, I'm actually giving you tactical insight in terms of how to use social media to identify who's speaking about your competition, who's speaking about you. I'll give you an example. I'm a public speaker, and I make money off of speaking. So I need to know who is hiring speakers. What better way to do that than to use Twitter, where every single day there's a conference in the world that's posting a call for speakers or a call for proposals, or look at hashtag event profs, which every single day gives me insight and access into people that could potentially be my clients. You see, if I don't take that step, and let me take a step back, no pun intended, I could post videos of me speaking on stages all day long that point back to my YouTube channel. And hopefully someone will pay attention. Hopefully someone in my community would be kind enough to retweet that. But instead, why not just be more tactical and go directly to the people, right, that make the decisions for, my business? And the same rules apply. If you're a real estate agent, if you're an insurance agent, if you're a social media marketer that runs a small agency, you can leverage data that exists right now to engage your potential customer. And it's almost like reverse engineering marketing. And instead of Instead of marketing necessarily a product or service, you're making yourself marketable, and you're doing it in a way that, you know, you're going after your customer directly versus expecting them to come to you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, those are so many, so many great points, and thank you for sharing those specific points. And also, kind of, I think you mentioned in the book, like, which really resonated with me. Consumers, they don't just want to purchase a product or service, but they want to be something bigger than who they are. They want to be part of a movement. So explain, unpack that a little bit, and how can we approach that phenomenon as a marketer? You know, how can we apply that?
You know, so I talk about moments, not marketing, and the power of a moment, the power of when something is happening right now, this little point in time, those are opportunities selectively for your brand to swoop in and engage. You know, it's funny because I asked the question today, the audience I spoke to, in the last year, who has either seen someone that they know talk about the keto diet, or they themselves posted about the keto diet on social media? It's like every single hand went up, you know, myself included. And the reality is that we as consumers are easily persuaded by people that we see in our news feeds. Again, the key word here is people, but these people are also brands. I'm a brand, right? Like, I don't create content on social media necessarily for my health, right? But I'm a brand. Like, you're a brand. There are things that we do, there are activities that pay our bills, right? That we're able to monetize, but we have to do the live stream. We have to do the Twitter chat. We have to create the content, right? Because all these ways that we engage audiences give value, and then that value actually elevates our perceived value as a brand. And like, we understand that as people. Most corporations think because they are Nike or they are Guess or they're Coca-Cola that they're going to earn all this digital market share. But the reality is that people have tuned them out, because the perception of a brand today on Instagram or Twitter is that they are either a customer service soundboard. So if you have an issue with the brand, you go directly to them through Twitter, through Instagram or Facebook, or B, they're an advertiser. And the reality is no one wants to be sold to. Not a single person that I come across that I meet, and I ask them this question: do you like being sold to? Not a single person says, yes, I like being sold to. But yet, as marketers, what do we do all day? We're selling. And you know, what I want anyone watching this to walk away with is, going forward, as you start reshaping how you go to market and how you promote your business, focus on one of three key areas. First of all, anytime you show up, you should focus on entertaining, inspiring, or educating. Yeah. Most people are not entertained. Like, I am not an entertainer by design. If I can educate, right? You, same thing. You're a teacher. You can educate. These are the ways that we've been able to build our following in our communities. Same thing happens with brands. First of all, what's your theme? Second, stop selling and focus more on engaging. It's like, remove the call to actions, remove the sales completely out of the equation, and give your community content that's so damn good that you're going to lead them in the direction of where you want them to go versus telling them where to go. And there's a finesse to that. There really is a finesse to how you create content, how you explain yourself, how you get people to engage. It's not linear. Like, I wish there was like this easy way that, you know, you could create a brand overnight on social media. But the reality is it takes time, and you need to, you know, approach people one person at a time.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. And, you know, like, approaching people 1% at a time. And also, you talk about, you know, creating that feeling like all of my friends are talking about this. Everyone is doing this. So as a result, I want to be part of this movement. So that is really eye-opening for me, even though I kind of know that. So it's really interesting to read that. And we really have to think about how we are promoting our products, our services differently by identifying those super fans who are waiting to talk about this, and then you generate this movement so everyone wants to be a part of this. So that is such a great point. And kind of following up on that is, and you talk a lot, and you are such a great example. You did this so well back then when I connected with you on Snapchat. So you were talking about being human, right? And throughout the book, I hear this a lot. I read this a lot. You know, brands, companies, small business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, we need to be more human. But my question for you is, Carlos, how can we be human? I feel like after being on social media for so long, we almost lost that ability to be human. So share with us some like specific tactics that we can apply to be more human.
Yeah, so that's honestly such a good question and a great point, because like I even become desensitized sometimes in this world, right? Because like you're always on, and you know that when you go on Instagram stories or Snapchat, right in the book, like you're almost like playing an online avatar. And you're
Mm,
right, like humanizing your brand, authenticity, transparency. These are just, it's almost like they're becoming like overly used buzzwords. And I really hope that the more over the next year I talk about this book, that like even like humanizing your brand doesn't fall into that category. But the reality is like what it means is, first of all, stripping lingo out of your content so you don't sound like you're a corporation, or you don't sound like you're a brand. Like the way that people speak to one another is how you should be speaking online. And I know it's really tough because oftentimes, when you're, for example, tweeting on Twitter, you're posting content as a logo. If you're posting as your agency, posting as your business. And I'll give you an example. Like I was having this conversation with someone yesterday. I don't publish any content from my business account anymore, from my agency account, Gil Media,
mm,
because the perception is that my company is me, although I have a team that I hire that works for me. The perception is like I'm the face of my company. So why not just leverage the fact that I have a brand that people relate to and people like following, and we'll just use the Carlos Gil brand as that funnel. And that's the same approach. So like think about the world of influencer marketing now in fitness, right? You go on Instagram and there are fitness influencers galore. Well, why doesn't Nike have their own army of fitness influencers,
mm.
right? There are chef influencers. There are foodies that exist. Why doesn't Whole Foods have their own army of foodie bloggers,
That's a
right?
good
That
point.
instead of engaging on behalf of Whole Foods, they're real people. So I think like there's a couple different tactics to break down here. One, stop sounding like you're a corporation and sound like an actual person. An example of that I like a lot and I refer to in the book is Wendy's. The other is start putting a human face and voice behind your content. So actually use a real human being to be the narrator, the storyteller. And then, three is I just mentioned it, stories. Storytelling is not new, but stories can be powerful for companies, whether it's employee takeovers, influencer takeovers, just even kind of showing what a day to day in your company looks like. But you see, I think you got to take a step back in terms of analyzing what do you want social media to do for you. Most people that are social media marketers are just checking boxes. They're
Mm,
doing the bare minimum every single day because they think they need to do it. And the KPIs that they're looking at are also wrong. They're looking at follower growth. You don't
mm,
have to have the biggest social media account in order to make an impact. You can go directly to people and engage, regardless if you have 1 follower or 1 million, right? A lot of marketers are skipping consistency and community, and they're just focusing on content, pushing out as much content as possible to be as noisy as possible. And then they're skipping all the way down to conversion, and they're just thinking about the end result being conversion. I tell you what marketers need to hone in on more is their market share in terms of their um, share of voice. So we are all competing against people. We're all competing against brands. Your share of voice is really important, and your share of voice isn't a KPI that grows just necessarily by pushing out content. But it's by having conversations with people. It's by building advocacy. Like I'm sitting back right now, and every single day, as copies of the end of marketing are dropping into people's mailboxes. What are people doing organically? I haven't asked them to do this. They're taking a photo of the book and they're tweeting it, or they're
mm,
going to Instagram stories and they're sharing it. Very much how I describe how like Drake and Kanye West and musicians today, their albums become viral sensations because people download the music and they want to be perceived as cool. They want to be in the in crowd. So they do a screenshot of their Spotify song that's playing now and they put it on Instagram or they put it on Snapchat. So again, like this is kind of just breaking down what I'm sharing with you and the viewers watching right now. Like what I share in the book is like you you have to immediately stop marketing your business like you've been marketing your business and get down to the basics of doing what influencers do, what celebrities do, what musicians do, which is just being real. It doesn't have to be polished, but just be real with people.
Oh, I love that. Lost you for a second. Yeah, that's great. Being like authentic. I also love how you mentioned, many people are looking at the wrong KPI. It is really interesting that you mentioned that because it reminds me last week we were talking about on my show, we're talking about Instagram. How Instagram they are removing the number of likes that people can notice. Who knows? The same thing may happen to LinkedIn, to Facebook, and to
That's the
different.
best thing that could happen. Sorry to cut you off. That's the best thing that can happen in social media.
What do you mean?
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, we tend to make decisions that are predicated based on vanity metrics, right? We're trying to get the most likes because it looks good on the surface. But what are likes if people really aren't becoming advocates? What are likes if people aren't sending you a message to high five you on the content? What are likes if people aren't even commenting or sharing? It's just a like at the end of the day. And what I loved about Snapchat early on, more so than like other social networks, was on Snapchat, only you know how many people really view your content, right? So because you only know how many people view your content, your challenge within yourself
That's right.
is to keep leveling up the quality of content, the consistency of content. And once you know that there's people actually paying attention, then you start going deeper in terms of engaging, right? So you can look at the analogy, you can either go wide or you can go deep. A lot of people are trying to cast this digital net and trying to go really wide and capture as many people as possible.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of going deep, because when you go deep, you start analyzing, well, who are my super fans? Like, I can tell you for a fact, like, who are the people in every one of these networks that right now I message you and said, like, hey, I just dropped this video on YouTube. Can you please do me a favor and share this out? They're going to do it without hesitation. But do most companies have their finger on the pulse, digitally speaking, that when they roll out a new campaign or a new product, or if they're tasked with finding 15 advocates or influencers for their brand, they even know where to start? And the answer is no, because it requires actually having relationships built within your community. And the beauty is, like, we all have access to the same tools. We all have access to community. You don't have to go very far.
Yeah, such a great point. I think, many people who watch my show right now, and thank you so much of everyone for joining us live. Team, Vicky, Lucille, Lori, and Peter, and everyone for being here. And sorry if I missed a few names. And I love, I think the same thing can also be applied to small business owners and solopreneurs. We need to know who are our super fans, right? Those people who we can really cultivate, or we already are cultivating deeper connections. I think that's kind of what you are talking about, to really go deep with those relationships who are willing to be an advocate for us, right? I love
Right, correct.
I love how you mentioned, be more human. So my question is, do you think we should stop promoting our products or services? How do we go about that? And should we stop using our logos? And if we have to use our logo, how can we where to draw the line between that? See, I have this logo here, so should I not using the logo anymore? And or stop promoting ourselves? So in this new age of marketing, how can we promote in a way without feeling like being overly sexy, being overly promoting?
So yeah, I think it goes back to, at the end of the day, what's your objective and what's your reason for being on social media, right? My objective since day one as an individual has always been to network with people, to expand my network, to meet people, not to sell a product. And I know that sounds, almost like hypocritical, because if you go on my social media every single day now, you're going to see I'm pushing that to marketing really hard. But the fact is, look, I'm my biggest fan. I wrote the dang book, so I'm a fan of the book. I want to move the book. And I also know there's a lot of value, but to keep it 100, I also know that if you've been following me for quite some time, you've probably gotten a lot of value from me, and I've never asked you to join a course or to buy anything from me. So this is my one time to cash in all those favors, right? Because I built up the community. But I think it gets really old really fast when you start following brands that every single time you see a tweet or a post from them, it's a right hook for them to sell you something. I think at the end of the day, the greatest competitive advantage that social media gives everyone is the ability to listen and then start building relationships with people based on the needs that or the solution you can provide to their needs, right? So I am looking for people that want to learn more about marketing because I have a solution for their need. If I'm, for example, Target, and I'm looking to connect more so with moms, then you would think that I would have a community manager on my team that's listening to what moms are talking about and just participating in their conversation. If I, for example, am a 36-year-old guy that's constantly traveling on the road, then where are the brands, right, that exist that are monitoring the activity of someone like myself? They're out there. They don't know I exist, and I don't know that they exist. And that's why I refer to social media as this giant digital ocean. So I would say that my recommendation, going back to your question, is to spend less time creating content and instead focus more of your efforts and your time in listening and then just engaging and having conversations with users.
Wow, that is so refreshing to hear. So if you can like kind of give us a percentage wise, and I think when I read in your book, one purpose for you to write the book is to help us to cultivate and to scale relationship building. And that is something I struggle between content creation and content consumption at the same time running a business. So what I'm hearing from you is that don't worry about being so obsessed with creating content, but spending more time listening and consuming other people's content. Is that what you are talking about? And maybe
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You know, there's this misconception, and I don't know, you know, I just to be frank with you, like I don't consume a lot of content from like social media thought leaders. I spend a lot of time having conversations with people that, for one, they tell me they get value out of my work, and then I take kind of like big brother, you know, unofficial mentor kind of role with them. Because again, I'm a communicator through and through, and that's where I've been able to build my brand is by using these mediums to network. But from what I kind of decipher from all of this, like there are thought leaders out there that are telling people just getting started in the game, like you have to create loads of content and you have to do this and do that and build a brand. Look, the easiest way to build a brand of any kind is just jump right into the mix and have conversations with who your customer really is. So if I'm a small business owner that runs a 4-person agency in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm looking to sell Facebook ad services, right? Then logic tells me I need to find people that need my services, right? I don't necessarily need to go out and create 100 YouTube videos to show,
that's
that
right.
I'm worth my salt. I just need to go out and find buyers. And that could be anyone. It could be a pizzeria. It could be a golf course. It could be anyone, right? So then now your objective becomes not create content, but to connect with people that need your services. And that's
Mm,
like sales 101, right? But again, we're like in this new era, this new age where I think brands are constantly under all this pressure to create content. The reality is a lot of the content they're creating is not getting consumed because they
mm,
don't have a community and they skip the part of community and they just focus on content. And let me be the first to tell you that content is not king. And it's a very bold statement. I can't stand when I hear at a conference a speaker say that content is king because it's BS. You can have the greatest content, but if you don't have a community and there's people that aren't consuming it, you have nothing. It's just noise. It's digital noise.
wow. So can I interpret this as even if your content is amazing, if you don't have an audience, that content will go nowhere. Is that right? Or what do you think?
It's common sense, right? Like people need to consume your content in order for it to do something for you.
So what do you think is the key? Community?
100% is community.
Wow. That's a mic drop moment. That is like really an eye-opening moment for me to really
And
think.
here's the thing, and let me put this in perspective, right? Like you don't need thousands of people in your community, right? You don't need more than maybe a handful because numbers can multiply easily, provided that you're cultivating the right community, right? I think that based on whatever business that you're in, your objective should be how to identify 5 or 6 people that are passionate about first and foremost my company or me personally or the services that I do, that I provide. Find 5 other people and start up a little focus group, start up a little mastermind, put
Mhm.
them in a Slack channel together, put them on Facebook Messenger, and then start cultivating those 5 people. And then those 5 over time will become 10, and then the 10 will become 20, and then they'll become 100, and they'll kind of grow from there. And that doesn't happen on day one. So my recommendation, regardless of where you're at in this like spectrum, because I realize there's people that are just getting started, there's people that have been in this for a while, is first of all, stop looking at what other people are doing because you're not other people and other people are not you. And
Yeah.
other people and other businesses have different objectives than you do. And really assess what do you want social media to do for you. Now let's face it, every single business is in business to do what? To sell. Great. We've already addressed that. However, how are you going to get people to buy from you if they don't know what the hell you do or who you are, what you stand for, or what you believe in? And there's another misconception, which is you don't have to be on every single social network either. Have an aggressive presence on the one or two social networks where you can get the biggest reach. You don't need to be on Facebook. Maybe you just use Facebook ads. You don't need to be on TikTok just because you hear people talking about TikTok. If your buyer's not there. I kind of went through this with Snapchat years ago. I was like a big Snapchat fanboy, and I was telling everyone that would even pay attention to me to join Snapchat for business. Now, I'll be honest with you, I got called out on my shit a lot of times. And the reality, yeah, absolutely. And the reality is that most businesses are focusing on their core consumer. And if your core consumer is not on Snapchat or if it's not on TikTok, then why would you have a presence on there?
I'm reading people's comments, and I love what like people are just talking about what you just mentioned. Vicky and Lucille, they were talking about, I think what they were talking about is it is really important to have a community, but at the same time, like on the condition that we already have a community and we need to share valuable content so people get to know us. And so I think we need both, right? We need a community, but at the same time, we also need like good content so people can get to know us, can trust us, and eventually and hopefully purchase from us. I know in your book, you have a very solid section where you give people a 10-step process to create epic stories. I don't know if you memorize the 10 steps. So maybe you can share some of the 10 steps with us. Do you need me to refresh your memory?
Man, you're putting me here on the spot. Look, number one, I'm probably not gonna be able to go through all the 10. But the biggest thing about social media storytelling is, first of all, it starts with your objective, which goes back to what I said before. Everything that you do should have a purpose and you should have an objective. If not, don't bother doing it. Social media can be a big waste of time. And again, like, hopefully those of you that are watching this that either don't follow me yet, or hopefully those of you that are just kind of seeing me speak for the first time realize, like, I'm not here for the rah-rah. Like, I'm not here to tell you all the things that you hear other thought leaders and gurus and personalities telling you. I'm not here for that. I'm here to give you the real. And that's what works for me. So I'm going to tell you that social media can be a big waste of time if you're not strategic and you're not focused. Like, I'm here because there's a very specific strategic reason why I go on here every day. Otherwise, like, I would love to have hobbies. Like, when people ask me, like, what are your hobbies? I tell them I really don't have any hobbies because I'm always working, right? I would love to play video games. I would love to be able to disconnect and watch shows and things like that. But I also realize that I am in an ecosystem that if you go off the grid for 24 hours, you almost like become digitally irrelevant, right? Because I've spent so much time studying this game. Now, going back to your question about storytelling, like, have an objective, have a purpose. Then what's the platform, right? You have a lot of different options. I'm not a fan of like rinsing and repeating the same content that you put on Instagram or on Snapchat, or just like recirculating content. I think that's cheesy. I think it's almost like digital leftovers, right? But the key to telling a good story is to show people behind the scenes and things that they normally don't see, and really to reel them in, digitally speaking. So, like, I'll give you an example, right? People see the highlights of what I do. They see if I do a keynote, a photo on Instagram. But what people really love the most, because I see it in the comments or in direct messages, is a day like yesterday, right before I'm about to go on stage. I go outside, I get my phone. I'm just keeping it 100. I'm just kind of telling people whatever the hell comes to mind. And people love that because it's not forced. It's not scripted. I'm not asking you like, hey, by the way, go on Amazon and buy Vendor Marketing for $17.95. I'm just keeping it real. I think every company is capable of that. Every company should be taking lessons from celebrities and seeing how the biggest influencers and creators and celebrities and everyday people are using social media. And like the irony in it is that the people that run social media at brands or agencies, they're consumers too. So stop thinking like a marketer, start thinking more like a consumer, and give your audience what they truly want.
Yeah. You pretty much covered all those like 10 points. Define your objectives, eye on the prize, and create content relevant to the platform. Identify your storytellers, which you mentioned earlier, and plan out your content and keep content concise and create excitement on other social media channels, cross promoting, and ask our community to share. And don't just go directly to selling, and build up your audience first. and wait until the end to do the call for action. So those are 10 points. Those are really amazing 10 points. And you kind of covered most of them. So here's a question from my friend Peter. And let me do a screen share. So he asked, I think people have lots of questions regarding what you shared earlier, Carlos. And so how do you build a community without creating the content? Where would you start? So I think you were talking about listening. So maybe you can some
Great,
specific, yeah.
great question. And I love that, Peter, because the reality is that you don't need on day one to focus on building a community. In fact, like I've been doing this for 11 years now. Like at no moment in time did I say like Carlos Gil needs to create the Carlos Gil community of fan love. There's a community already exists. So think about this for a moment. A platform like Twitter has over 300 million active users.
Mm-hmm.
Platform like Instagram has over 1 billion active users. Those are communities and pockets. Your objective should become, how do you insert your brand into those existing communities? So if I were to start a fashion brand tomorrow, I would know going into this business venture who my target consumer is. Are they male? Are they female? Maybe they're both. What are they into? And then my objective becomes connecting with them. So that's running searches on Twitter and Instagram. Maybe they're hashtag searches, maybe they're keyword searches, to then find who are the people that are interested potentially in my product and then just go engage with them. You see, I love Twitter, and I think Twitter is one of the easiest platforms to build a brand on because you don't need to build community. The community's already there. You just need to find people who have, relevant interests as you do, or like-minded interests as you do, who participate in engaging discussions that are relevant to you. Another kind of growth hack, if you will, is engage with the influencers in the space. So, I could throw out different industries that would just kind of come to mind, but like beauty is one of them, right? I talk to a lot of, companies that, represent beauty products. And I would say to them, whoever the big influencers are that you want to work with, here's like an easy way to tap into their audience. Go see all the tweets and Instagram posts that they're pushing out and just engage within the thread. Think about that for a moment. And that's really what I refer to as being a digital savage. So let's say that you are like a startup cosmetics company. Go to Mac and see all the people that are commenting on Mac's post and comment with them. Start having conversations. Go to like all the big beauty influencers that are creating content and just engage within their threads. Attention's the commodity, folks. We tend to chase the vanity metrics. We tend to chase the conversion. Attention is really the commodity. Your objective is to get someone's attention and get on their radar.
Yeah, I love this. And which actually, there's like so much content out there already. We can definitely learn a lot. I'm just reading this comment from my friend Vicky, which I also agree. And she was talking about influencers, like many influencers, they are not very responsive. And some of them, probably many of them, they hire VA and other people to manage their social media accounts. And so do you think that's an issue? Do you think that will be changed? Or do you think like we should kind of outsource engagement?
That's such a good question. It's a matter of preference, first and foremost. Like, I realize running a business and running a personal brand at times almost like conflicts with each other because it's time consuming, right? Like an hour that I spend here with you is an hour less that I have to run my business. It's an hour less that I have to engage online. So like, I think, ultimately, if you can outsource some of the things that are time consuming, great. But there's also a price that you pay for that, right? Like throughout the time that I have built my brand on social media, there's so many times I've wanted to outsource some of the little like intricacies, right? Like comments and engaging, but at the same time, that's not who I am, right? I would rather be able to get around to engage with someone when I can than just have either a bot or have a VA do that for me. I think when you start kind of talking in the realm though, like a corporate brand, so like one of the things that my agency Gil Media does for our clients is we're like the back of the house, back end social media support team. So like we are the community management team for several different notable brands. And like those companies pay us because if they're not leveraging their internal resources, then no one's responding to customers behind the scenes, right? And then those are missed opportunities to turn a customer into a super fan or a customer into an advocate. And those are also opportunities for competition to swoop in. So I think that as social media continues to evolve and you have more noise and more users getting on these platforms, you have to work smarter, not harder. If that means outsourcing some of those different processes, then sure. But don't lose sight of the fact that AI, artificial intelligence, not my friend AI here, but artificial intelligence is going to be disrupting a lot of this. Once chief marketing officers and CEOs get wind that you can program AI to do community management for you, that's actually going to result in thousands of job losses, which is why, once again, humanizing your brand is extremely important.
Actually, that's such a great transition to kind of one of my final questions. And I know Vicky also asked this question in regard to AI. And because in the book, Carlos, you made a prediction and you said that machine learning, predictive analytics, and AI will one day replace social media managers and community managers. And I got so scared reading that statement. I was like, wow, like all of us are going to lose our jobs. So explain that prediction to us a little bit, and how can we like remain relevant? I think this can also relate to Vicky's question here. So just like overall the influence of AI on what we are doing as social media and digital marketers.
Such a good question. So first of all, that prediction comes from a place where I, for one, have spent years working at companies where every single year the marketing budget scrutinized, the social media budget scrutinized. You go from having 4 employees, and then you have to fire someone because you're saving potentially $100,000, in salary plus benefits. So, like I said before, once the C-suite starts to get wind that there's this technology that exists that can optimize processes, it can save time and do jobs quicker than hiring a human being, and you don't need to pay salary and you don't need to pay healthcare benefits or 401k match, then why wouldn't companies hire AI community managers instead of people? It's common sense. It's basic business.
That's right.
I'm not a fan of it, but you know what? If I'm running a company that has, thousands of inbound posts coming in, because there are companies that do every single day, and I have a 2 or 3 person social media team, then why wouldn't I use artificial intelligence to make sure that every single customer is taken care of? Like if right now I could program an AI to hit up every single event producer on social media, why wouldn't I use an AI? The flip side and the destructive side of that is, you're right, jobs will be lost. That's reality. Welcome to the next decade. But what can you do in order to future-proof your business? Very simple. Start telling stories, start humanizing your brand, start connecting with people on a human level, because the reality is we're all human beings, we're not robots. So I think you're going to start seeing this, the way there's going to be this AI apocalypse, if you will. It's almost be like the movie Terminator, where we will become bound to each other because we relate to one another. And AI, we're going to start to view as the evil technology that's little by little replacing us.
Yeah. So in that regard, do you think we should all embrace besides being human, and also embrace more chatbots, all those things on our website and different platforms? We should embrace it, because I noticed a few years ago when we were at Social Media Examiner, the conference, there were so many sessions on chatbots. But this year, and the number really decreased a lot. So I was like, what's going on? So do you think chatbots are becoming more and more popular or less popular? So what's your take on that?
I think we're still scratching the surface with technology, right? What I perceive a chatbot to be right now is almost like an auto reply assistant, right? You get someone to go to your Facebook page, they engage with your page, you're kind of taking them through a funnel. But what I'm talking about goes much deeper than that. What I'm referring to is, as a brand, having a virtual community manager that is identifying people speaking about your company, mentioning your company, or opportunities to engage with people that even aren't. And then you form a conversation, and based on certain keywords, same methodology as the Facebook chatbots, you might go down this rabbit hole where you're engaging with a brand that's not a real person. But the flip side to that, and I'd say this is more so for influencers and creators out there, start paying attention to CGI influencers. I talk about Lil Miquela in the book. Lil Miquela has 1.6 million Instagram followers. If you look at what KFC is doing, Kentucky Fried Chicken, they now replace good old Colonel Sanders with the CGI bot. The person that's not even real but looks real to be the face of the brand.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Oh, such a great point. And you mentioned some big names, and reminds me, and one of your book chapters, you talk about some of the key marketing lessons you learned from social media big name influencers. And so maybe you can share one or two, like kind of takeaways, some of the key marketing lessons you learned from those giants in the industry.
Well, look, I'm a big DJ Khaled fan, so I have a chapter completely like dedicated to him and Kim Kardashian. I think there's so many lessons that we can learn. Like, put the person aside for a moment and focus on the performance. So, like, these are bigger than life characters. I get it. Not everyone has access and the budget to work with like big names like that, but we all have access to the same technology and the same resources. So what I always advise brands is look at the playbook of what they do and study it really well. And that's just being real and relatable and taking people behind the scenes and giving them an inner glimpse into what you do.
And just as you do that and be patient, I think even for you, it takes, like for all of us, takes lots of time to grow a community, people who are interested
100%
in buying from you. Yeah. So this is great. As I mentioned earlier, guys, I'm definitely giving away a copy of Carlos' book because this is such a great book. I actually couldn't stop reading this myself. And so please share, and I'll comment. I will just randomly select a person to give a copy. I will privately message you to see how you prefer to receive a copy of the book. So for other people, where can they get a copy, Carlos? Amazon?
Yeah, you can go Amazon. You can go endofmarketingbook.com. Just look up End of Marketing, and I appreciate in advance your support of this project.
Awesome. So where are you going to be speaking at next? Just in case some of them will be attending some of the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm getting ready to speak in Toronto. I'll be a keynote speaker at Social Media Week Toronto. I'm going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina, speaking at Internet Summit. And then I'm also going to be in Miami for an event for Americans for the Arts. Really excited about that. Also doing the keynote as well.
Wow, awesome. Yeah. So this is great. And I just shared the link to order a copy of Carlos' book in the comment section. Everyone, if you are interested in learning more about this, definitely get a copy of the book. And also a quick announcement. And next Wednesday, we're not hosting the show because I will actually be speaking at SEM Rush, their Global Marketing Day. I'll be speaking at their New York City office and talk about live streaming, actually. So unfortunately, my speaking time conflicts with my show time, so I really couldn't host the show. But we will see you in 2 weeks. So thank you so much, Carlos, again, for being here with us. And I appreciate you. And thank you so much, everyone, joining us live. And again, if anyone is interested in getting a free copy, please share and comment. And remember the entrepreneurship immersion program I mentioned earlier, free pass. So see you guys in 2 weeks. And thank you again, Carlos.
Thank you so much, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, bye, everyone.
Bye.